day after the death of S Sabari Varman, who was a prisoner in the judicial custody in Nagercoil, allegedly due to custodial torture. Now, this is the first custodial death that has been reported under Chief Minister Vijay Joseph's tenure. Now, authorities have swung into action by arresting 3 prison staff and placed under suspension. The charges under which they were booked are not clear yet. The arrest came hours after a postmortem report revealed 19 injuries on the 35-year-old disabled victim's body, including his elbows, forearms, knees and legs. According to sources, the arrested jail staff allegedly assaulted the man and tied him up inside the prison. A senior police officer said that the suspects were arrested after holding an investigation with eyewitnesses and after pursuing the CCTV recordings of the Nagercoil prison. A panel of doctors from Kanyakumari, Thirumalai and Thoothukudi Government Medical College hospitals conducted the postmortem after the family members of the victim demanded that the autopsy be conducted by an independent panel of experts. Police sources identified the arrest as a chief jail warden, Thirumalai Nambi Suresh, and jail wardens Jagen and Sivakumar of the Nagercoil District Jail. The action against the police personnel came after Kanyakumari District Superintendent of Police R. Stalin conducted an inquiry at the prison on Tuesday, and Nagercoil Judicial Magistrate R. Satyamurthy held inquiries at the hospital for the last 2 days. And to get us more details, I'm joined by my colleague Verghese Ibrahim live with us. Well, Verghese, this is not the first time around that we are hearing of custodial deaths taking place in Tamil Nadu. It is actually sad that there is no learning from the last deaths that were reported. While they are still seeking justice, here is yet another case of S Sabari Varman. And the injuries that have been reported, some 19 such injuries reported on the dead body. What do we know about the steps being taken as far as ensuring that the prisoners in these jails are actually safe? And what is the state of the investigation so far?
Well, what the investigation is right now is highly based on the forensic evidence that we have. As you rightly pointed out, there are at least 19 injuries on the body, and they are injuries that are there on the legs, on the eyebrows, as well as with regard to the chest. So these 19 injuries are being carefully monitored, and to find out as to what could be the reason behind these kind of injuries that have occurred, whether there was a pre-existing injuries or not, those are also being looked into, because that is to overrule that these are fresh injuries that could have led to the death of the person. Now, there are 3 forensic examiners that were brought from 3 different medical colleges. That is to ensure there is fairness of understanding of the forensic report that they are creating with regard to the postmortem, and to ensure that there is no kind of interference on the part of anyone, because it is a sensitive case that involves the prison wardens in this. What we understand is that the police immediately after coming to know about the death of Varman on Monday itself isolated the entire prison cell. They spoke with some of the eyewitnesses who had given accounts of how he was in fact being taken inside the prison and tied in a certain way, after which they heard sounds coming in of a person screaming, and that also was later subdued. This is what some of the sources who had given an account about what happened to Varman had said to the investigation officers. Meanwhile, the 3 of them were immediately arrested and they had been placed on suspension. Now, this person, Warden, was actually an under-trial prisoner. He was lodged at the Nagercoil sub-jail to ensure that the due process of law in which he was in fact part of, which is to say that he was actually brought in for a case for selling of gutka, which was declared illegal in the state. So he was actually picked up for a kind of a petty case and he was in fact brought in. But what led to the police to torture him, that too in a sub-jail and that too an under-trial prisoner who's under judicial custody, that is what is being investigated. And another aspect of this is that this is not the first time that custodial deaths have been reported. Custodial deaths with regard to the treatment of prisoners have been reported across Tamil Nadu in the last 5-6 years, which are in fact one of the difficult cases that have been there. We did see how when it came to the Santangulam case, where you had 9 policemen being sent to jail in a recent court verdict. So there is a lot with regard to prison prison management, how the police are treating those who have been taken or arrested. This is something that has been a cause of concern. Now, this is the first custodial death that has been reported under.
If I could interject over here, like you were mentioning, this is not the first time around. And there has been a change of government in Tamil Nadu, is what we are looking at right now. Has there been any avenue as far as prisons, custodial deaths, etc. are concerned that has been addressed by the new Chief Minister Vijay himself? Because this is going to be the first in his tenure.
Well, this is the first custodial death that has been reported under his tenure, and therefore there's a lot of renewed focus on it as well. Because as of now, Chief Minister Vijay has been in fact trying to reform the police process, or rather the policing process as such, because he's been looking at to ensure that there is a smooth conduct of how the cases are filed, how the administration in fact looks at those cases, the police administration within, the internal affairs that is looked into, especially when it comes to bribery. So all those aspects of it, the new government is in fact looking into it. Custodial deaths have been one of those aspects that they've been looking at. But as of now, with this death, it only shows that the reform processes that a lot of governments have been looking at, is not only with regard to the TVK, the DMK as well as the AIDMK had also been looking at certain reform processes in which they would be ensuring the safety of the prisoner who's been taken into the prison. Now, interestingly enough, over here in Tamil Nadu, with so many such cases that have been in fact reported on this particular issue, this is the need of the hour kind of a reform that they would be looking at, because as of now, this is something that the Vijay, TVK's Vijay government will have to address. It has been a big problem within the psyche of Tamil Nadu as well. So clearly the impetus is there, but the urgency has in fact been proved right when it comes to this case also being registered. So the effort should be to ensure that no other custody deaths happen in the manner what has happened with regard to Warden.
But Verghese, as far as learnings from the past few cases are concerned, whether at all there was any systems put in place, whether there was any awareness campaign or counseling of all these cops who are manning these prisons are concerned, has there been any step taken in that direction? Because it looks like they have a free hand about how they are willing to handle the prisoners, the inmates in these jails, even if that leads to being a fatal attack where they lose their lives.
Well, there have been several studies that have been conducted, which was supposed to be the underpinning for the reform process that most of the governments in Tamil Nadu wanted to bring with regard to how prisoner management should be looked into. They, in fact, did look into some of the prisoner management systems as well, especially when it had come to Tihar and other jails where it is managed in a more efficient way of how the prisoners, especially when it comes to under trials and others who are lodged in jails, because there is a certain leverage of freedom of movement that is also given to under trial prisoners. So in those cases, and how to grade it was something that they had been looking at. There are several studies that were conducted, and those studies were being relied upon. But the actual process of execution, especially when it comes to mid-level officers and lower-level officers, is where it has been, in fact, failing. You had IPS officers who had come with a lot of ideas regarding it, but then the implementation process on the ground depended on the last man constable. So that is somewhere where the process has been hitting the roadblock, and that is where probably the TVK government will also be looking at.
Absolutely. But Verghese, do we know anything about the protest that is going on right now? We did play out certain visuals that shows there were people sitting outside these particular jails demanding justice because the families have been left wanting. They do not know which way to go. They have already gone through the trauma of having the near and dear ones inside jail for a crime that they may have committed, and now they're not going to see them again.
Well, right now, with regard to the protest, one of the biggest demands that have been put forward by the family members, and that's why the protest happened, was that there should be fair autopsy that should be conducted on the body. So that was something that was carried out, and because of that, as I said earlier, there were 3 doctors from different government institutions that were brought in for the autopsy process, and their separate reports will be in fact looked into to avoid any kind of a bias that could in fact happen, as to show it as fair as it's possible could be. And also the arrests have happened. So these were in fact protests that happened just when the news had broken out that Varman was not alive. It happened early in the morning, but the news was given later in the day on Monday, and that's when the protest has happened. Now the family says they are in fact looking at the due process of law, and they are ready to come in and protest further if they think that things have in fact reached a stone wall. But as of now, authorities are moving with the case. The investigation is at breakneck speed. You had 3 arrests within 24 hours of the incident, and also the forensic evidence has been in fact gauged. So probably we are looking at a fast track approach with regard to this case.